Hey everyone, and welcome back to another base locations video. Commentary is included, and the first 20 are non-cliff platform, last 5 are cliff platform. Pretty simple structure, and yeah, I've prefabbed the bases so you can see roughly what size you can make, but it's not complete, and ultimately that's up to you. If you see a location you like, please feel free to hit the thumbs up, and now let's slither into it. This is location number 1, 44.3, 17.1. There we are on the map as a reference guide, and as we come out here, you'll see we are on top of this pillar here. I didn't realize you could actually build on these, but nonetheless you can, and some of these areas you'll require a rock drake or a bloodstalker, gas bags, maybe, I don't know, a megalania, thylacoleo, just something that's able to either climb or glide to get to some of these locations. But yeah, it's either the notion of trying to stay hidden or just being in a really awkward spot that makes it hard to be raided. So I'll let you guys decide as to which is which, and we'll now move on to Alright guys, so location number 2, 47.3, 25.9, and there we are on the map as a reference guide. So as you can tell by the interior foliage, we are clearly inside a heavily leafy area, and as you can see, oh here we go, if I run into the wall and mesh a little bit, now we can actually see the base. So the fertile region of Aberration is absolutely teeming with these locations where it's just covered with all these leaves. So find an area where it's got plenty of mushrooms because they're like trees, they don't despawn. Regular trees, which the mushrooms on top, which is kind of a nice touch. Rocks close by, and of course all the foliage. Okay, so staying nice and hidden. You can obviously build taller than this, so you can go upwards from here. Your cover's not going to be blown because of the extra height, so you can stick your fabricator, you've got generator space, you probably get chem bench and whatever else down, just to keep your base, you know, undetectable for the most part. And now, okay, so location number 3 brings us at 40.8, 23.0. And there we are on the map as a reference. So here we are, just sort of tucked away around the corner of this region here. So obviously this is Portal, so we're not far away from where you actually spawn in if you go to the easiest region. So we're just tucked away way off in the corner over there. So if you're needing a spot just to start off, then I recommend this little section right here. So this will keep you close enough for all the resources. If you happen to die, you're not far away, and of course you've got all the creatures and whatnot that you could need in order to tame or gather the meat, hide, keratin, fur, or pelt rather, whatever it is that's needed. So let's jump on over to number 4. So number 4 is sort of a large series one. There's heaps of these ones around. So 47.5, 11.7. And there we are on the map as a reference, so still near the portal area. And as you will see, I managed to almost get a 3x3 on the back of this weird metal beam here. And of course, based on where it's located, it's very much undetectable. And because it's behind this beam in a very generic archway sort of pipe, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, and obviously 4 on the other side. Okay, so there's 8. There are 8 of these locations that you can choose from. So if you've got a way to get up here and then a way to get down efficiently, well, you could easily put down a decent base, and it should be relatively easy to defend because the downward regions down here, it's, you know, you might get rocketed maybe, but with the hitbox of this thing coming out a little bit, you know, it's going to be hard to squeeze a rocket up in there. Same with down there, and of course on the sides. It's just small gaps everywhere. So if you just want to maintain incognito sort of lifestyle, well, I'd say that's pretty easy. So let's jump on to number 5. Okay, so number 5, 45.5, 11.2. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So, coming down into here. So we're inside this sort of metal contraption here. This isn't, say, inaccessible by any means. Like, people can easily access it even just through this gap here right next to it. But it is predominantly inaccessible to creatures that have to come through this gap here. Having such a large sort of area up here, it is covered from the top directly as well, obviously from most of the sides. Bits and pieces won't be able to come through the gap here, so I'd say this is a pretty good starting point, and it is just behind Portal itself. So 2x1, 3x1, or make it 2 stories tall, whatever it is that you fancy. Just give yourself the space, there's plenty of it. And yeah, that's all I've got to say about it, so let's move on to location number 6. Okay, so location number 6, 43.4, 33.1. There we are on the map as a reference. So obviously now we've moved away from Portal a little bit, but we are back in the leafy foliage sort of scenery. Now these areas are littered all over the fertile region, as I believe I stated previously. I actually don't remember necessarily, but because of how the foliage dangles, I could easily make this 3 stories, 4 stories tall, no problem. Easy. And I can maintain my incognito ability because, well, unless I'm putting down a campfire, no light is going to shine through that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this exact one, but as you can see, like, there's just leaves covering all over the place. Up there, down on this post, I believe somewhere around that region. Yep, there it is on the tree trunk. It's just everywhere. So have a snooze around and pick which one suits you best, whichever one sort of tickles your fancy. They all pretty much operate the exact same. This is just one that I chose because I can easily see it from a specific angle here, but you know, 99% of the time people are not going to see the base here. So let's move on to location number 7. Okay, so number 7, 37.7, 34.5. And there we're on the map as a reference guide. Moved away a little bit, still using the foliage as a cover, but this time it's a bit further away, and we're also using the walls on both sides as cover as well. So sort of putting the base into the very corner, if you will. And there we are. So as I stated previously, just trying to use the foliage to your advantage. As you can see from the outside, it's not visible. And anyone who might be able to see it in regards to, I guess, render distance, well, it's not going to render in if they're, say, coming out of the portal or coming out of the glowtail cave, etc. So just from my own, I guess, opinion, it should very well be safe. And got Red Panda there sending me a message. I didn't actually read it, but I'll reply to him later on. So yeah, now let's move on to location number 8. Alrighty, so number 8, 32.6, 27.9. There we are on the map as a reference guide. I didn't think that I'd built again in the foliage area. Oh, okay, yes, I remember now. Alright, so this is a little bit different. Still using a foliage as a cover, as you can see here, but look at the space that's around. Look at all this space. And it is way off in the edge of the map. So it's a low traffic area because edges of the map, for the most part, are always low traffic. Aberration actually might be the only exception to that rule because of the surface areas. But nonetheless, okay, so what's providing the foliage cover are these sort of trees with the weird mangrove roots. So people can still technically harvest these trees, I'm fairly certain. yep, you can still harvest them, but I can't imagine that people are going to sort of ignore these trees and the fungal trees just to come up here and then harvest all these trees and sort of blow your cover. And not only that, but because of how far up the foundations are, they won't affect the regrowth of these trees if for whatever reason they happen to disappear. So with that out of the way, let us, as soon as I get out of the fly mode, let us move on to the next location. Alrighty, so the next location sees us at 10.1, 45.9. Actually, this is location 9. Yep, location 9. Okay, so here we are behind this big sort of crystalline formation and wedged next to this rock. So where we are, just in terms of sort of, I guess, mass perception, is way between these, whatever the hell these would actually be called. I called it a crystalline structure, which I thought sort of semi-resembled it, just meaning that it was sort of eroded away and that's what caused its shape, but I don't think that's the case. Doesn't matter. So yeah, just wedged behind here. I think you can actually get another foundation back here as well, should you need it. I don't know if you'd actually need it, but nonetheless, 2x1 fits nicely, and you can obviously build upwards from here. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Nice and tucked away. That's about it. Alright, so we'll go on to number 10. Alright, so at number 10, 14.2, 42.4, and there we are on the map as a reference guide. So coming out here, closing this. So as you can see, we're next to a structure right here. So we've tucked it away underneath this structure here. Now you might be wondering, well, that's not overly hidden, and in a sense you are right. But you come all the way down here, you're never going to see that because it's never going to render in. Anyone who's on this side of the lake itself, yeah, it's not going to render in for them. So, whoops. So coming up here, so if you have a rock drake or something like that, the rock drake's not going to render in either. So just park it up and hop off. When you're getting in, you'll have to crouch because there's some kind of invisible wall there, and in you go. So now let's move on to location number 11. Okay, so 11 is at 15.0, 39.3. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So coming out here, so this time again we are underneath the formation, just on the other end of the formation. So number 10 was just on the way over there on the other side. Same deal, doesn't seem overly hidden, but you can't be seen from the top and you can't be seen from across the lake. So creatures and structures will not sort of render in from that far away. You know, they have to be a lot closer and just gliding past or something in order to see this. So that's about all I've got to say about that. I'd say this is fairly easy to sort of build up on if you wanted to, but I'd rather just keep it incognito. Smaller the better. Alright, so now we'll move on to location 12. Okay, so location 12, 14.9, 35.4, and there we are on the map as a reference guide. So coming along here, yes, the 1x1 that I've tucked behind this structure here. So as you can see with this pile of ruins, nothing overly sort of fabulous about it, except it's just got this pocket behind here. Stick any 1x1, and if you don't want to use it as a base, don't. Just stick important things in here just in case you get raided in your main base, and it'll get you back up on your feet. Relatively hidden, it's not going to be seen from the top. Like you'd have to be pretty good with eyesight in order to see that. And of course it's behind this, so it's not really going to be seen through this gap either. So let's move on to location 13. Okay, so 13 is at 17.3, 31.7, and there we're on the map as a reference. So this one was an interesting case, as soon as this opens up the correct way. However, that'll do. So climbing up the ladder, closing the trapdoor, and working your way up this ladder, and then just use a climbing pick to just hop over this last hump here. So the base itself is down there, so you're just trying to stay hidden away. So if you've got climbing picks, you'll be good to go. And obviously, you know, people aren't really going to be looking for a base down there in a crevice to nowhere. Again, there's nothing overly special about this area, so hopefully it's a relatively low, sort of low profile and low traffic area. And you can't be seen from above until you get basically on top of the base itself. But apart from that, yeah, nothing overly special about it. So now let's move on to location 14. So, location 14, 23.5, 27.0. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So, just had to go into fly mode so I don't bobble around too much thanks to the earthquake. But we are behind a grounded machine here, so this is just all on ground level. Small opening here, which I'm pretty certain a Pulmono, oh it's over there now. Oh no, maybe that's them there, but Pulmonos tried to follow me in before and they couldn't. I'm guessing it's a bit too small for them, so even Pulmonos weren't able to get in here, which is nice. Which, you know, rest assured that if you would rather avoid danger and whatnot, well, at least you know that creatures aren't going to be an issue. And that's about it. Light sources won't be a big problem either. If you put a campfire, or several actually, down here, I can't imagine it'll radiate enough light to cause this part here to sort of light up too much, which is good. And now we'll move on to location 15. Okay, so 15, 23.7, 26.9, and there we are on the map as a reference. So this is right next door to the previous spot, but I didn't want to try and put both of them in the one video just in case I forgot that there were sort of two parts to it. So this is completely enclosed, apart from the opening that's just here, and just inside this spot here was the previous location. So you have to work your way around to the back here, up over this sort of cylindrical semicircle, half pipe, whatever you want to call that, down to this area here. So how you build this is up to you. I've just done a 2x1 with a 1x1 extension there, and obviously, as you can see, completely covered over. Slight gap here, but no one's going to be getting through there because I can't even get through there while flying. So yeah, one entrance in and out through here. So yep, hopefully that sort of does the job that you guys need it for. Now let's go on to location 16. Okay, so 16 is at 40.0 exactly and 42.0 exactly. That was good placement of a bed. Alright, and they're on the map as a reference guide. So, just inside this crevice here, nicely tucked away, all hidden. Have to come a fair way out of the crevice in order to actually be able to do anything, but that's fine. So that's the base, just inside there. This is the surrounding area. So nothing overly flash, nothing overly fancy. In fact, I don't see any real resources except for rocks, so you're going to have your work cut out for you if you want to start farming up. But nonetheless, use it as a backup base if you want to, or use it as extra storage to hold your better blueprints or weaponry. And now let's move on to location 17. Okay, so 17, 29.2, 40.7. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So the surrounding area is just this segment here. So I chose this because there's a few little bits and pieces to it. One, it's relatively closed off. So you got a small gap here. You got the entry part down here. Then above the entry part is sort of like another one, but you can put another base behind here if need be, or use this as your dino storage. Over, got an Aberration over there. And just another section at the back here. So because I don't really know the map all that well, I'm actually having a hard time as to what necessarily would be high traffic and low traffic, but this part looks pretty decent to me. Maybe not so much if you're solo, but duo, trio, and able to sort of build up a bit quicker, perhaps. So now we'll move on to location 18. Okay, so spot 18, 17.5, 32.1. There we are on the map as a reference. And once we hop out here, okay, so we just got a 2x1 at the base of this structure here. Not overly different to some of the previous spots that we've already had. So just making sure that it's nicely tucked away, just like so. You're able to build upwards from there. So there isn't really a height restriction. And as you can see, you'd have to be a very specific angle in order to see it. Too far in the center, it's going to be blocked. Too far to the left, actually there's only a very narrow window in which you can see it from the left hand side. It's predominantly at a nice angle from here. Too low and it's gone. Too high and it might disappear a little bit, but that also depends on how far back you are. So this, although looking fairly simple, I do believe to be quite hidden, which is why I've chosen it. So now let us move on to location 19. Okay, so location 19, 14.9, 34.9. They were on the map as a reference, so way up on the edge. And here we are here. So I found a little nook underneath that structure near number 18. So if I just quickly demonstrate, you should be able to get out here. And then work your way up to this, run, and jump. And then come down here, and out you go. So it is accessible on foot. Just need to know where you're going to look. So come down here, underneath that, up the ramp, and down here. And then up this part here. It'll eventually let you up. And there it is. So probably another spot for you to just store bits and pieces away. Maybe a generator with a cryo fridge. Just load the generator up with gasoline, and you can keep your good dinos safe, because this is not accessible by any creatures. People would actually have to get in here on foot. So bonuses, and we'll move on to the last location for non-cliff platform locations. Number 20. Okay, so here at number 20, 10.7, 44.3. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So I don't know how well known this little rat hole is. And yes, I'm in water, but no, it doesn't actually count as water. Yeah, it's weird. That's why I'm able to spawn this bed. So trying to place things down here, it keeps saying obstructed. So what I would do is just place down your regular 2x1, and then just place down a cryo fridge and a generator, put your door at the front, and just leave it at that. That's all I would do, because you go any further, well, probably you're not going to be able to begin with, but it's just, yeah, it's just not worth it. Use it for storage, and hiding away your bits and pieces, hiding away tames, BPs, whatever else. So to get in and out of here, it's completely inaccessible to every dino except for shoulder mounts. But it's here, next to these eroded crystalline structures that I spoke of earlier. And it's just here on this part of this sort of like water. As I said, I'm not a big fan of Aberration, so this is the first time I've actually seen this particular sort of section. And then I discovered this. I'm not saying it hasn't been discovered previously, but I just simply haven't seen anyone else display it. So nonetheless, I hope that this sort of piques someone's interest, that you can, especially for unofficial because there's no collision. Yeah, you could easily put down whatever it is that you need. You could probably fit a indie forge or something like that in here, like just at the back, and be quite happy with that. And then smithy and fabricator and chemistry bench and whatever else off to the side. I don't know, I'll leave that up to you. But to stop this from dragging on too long, we'll now move on to location number 21. Okay, so number 21, 44.2, 09.6. There on the map as a reference. So now we get the last 5 locations here with cliff platforms, and this part here was just at the back of the portal area, and I was quite surprised that this was here. I guess I really shouldn't be surprised considering the other locations I found, but nonetheless I was surprised. So first cliff plat, just chandeliering turrets down, because if anyone brings any gas bags or something like that, I can guarantee that the only place they're going to be able to hide is down here. Apart from that, they can't go anywhere. Coming down here does nothing for them. Coming down here will allow them to heal, but that's so far away from what they'll be wanting to do, it's just not worth it. So turret tower platform and actual base platform, and you're good to go. And we'll move on to location number 22. Okay, so 22, 46.6, 10.2. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So got a double cliff platform thing here happening. This is still official, just remember that. I'm not exactly certain why it let me mesh it in like that, but it did. So I chose this spot because originally it was over here, but I figured if someone had a gas bags and they drained the bottom turrets, they could just sit here, just sit down here in the mesh apparently, and just sort of rocketed the platform or something. So I figured if they were to be dismounted from the gas bags, then there's very few places where they could go and sort of sit there nicely and safely. So yeah, it's what you make of it. So now we'll move on to location 23. Alright, so location 23, 10.8, 46.1. There we are on the map as a reference guide, in between index and middle finger. So this spot here I was actually quite pleased with. So, hold on, where is it? So I managed to find a spot that was within the trees, but also fairly sort of covered with foliage. So I didn't think I was going to find a cliff platform area that was going to allow me to both be productive and build a large base and also stay hidden. But this certainly has done that, and on top of that, there is no harm in chandeliering turrets, because no one passing by here accidentally is going to get so close that they'll start getting blasted. If they get this close to you, they already know you're here and they are going to try to raid you. So hang those turrets and yeah, go for broke. Just thought I'd bring this one into the fold. Or is this another spot here? Ah, okay, so maybe an unofficial section there, but whatever. So now we'll move on to location 24. Alrighty, so 24, 19.3, 26.9. There we are on the map as a reference. So now I've decided to see what you guys would think if I built near the surface entrance. So obviously nice and high up in this section here. I deliberately put it up in this sort of left hand corner because then you can build nice and high as well. And as you can see, got coverage from below, and as far as I can tell, you can't, yeah, okay, so creatures and people can't actually stand on this, so it makes them that much harder to raid. If they tried to stand here, well, that's just too close to turrets, they're going to get obliterated. And then if they're on foot, would they be on foot if they're coming through here? Maybe. I'll give you the perspective anyway. So that's what they're going to see if you put a cliff platform there, and if they look straight up. Not going to see much, might not even notice it at all, because you got the crystals and whatnot in the way. Too far away for turrets to hit them, so it's not like they're going to be aware of your presence with turret fire. So yeah, it's high traffic, definitely, because people are obviously always wanting to make their way to the surface. But I figured it's a safe bet. You know, if you're going to take a bet on building near a surface entrance, I'd say this one's probably one of the better ones. So now let's move on to the last location of the video, number 25. Okay, so 25 sees us at 27.8, 33.9. There we are on the map as a reference guide. So, as you can see, not overly different to the last one, trying to stay nice and high, but still enough space to build upwards if you need to, so stick down that Indie Forge, it's all good. So up there is where I've stuck it this time. So this part here doesn't look like it's got a lot of resources. It's got stone, but that's about it. The only thing I could think that might attract attention for Aberration is if there is if there's a loot beacon, because these allow people to travel off the server, unless you go to the surface and go to one of the obelisks. But otherwise, yeah, this is the only way off. And then they might see it there, maybe, but I just can't imagine that people are going to be overly sort of busy coming through this particular port. And if they don't, well, that just leaves you alone, which is good. Don't forget to chandelier turrets, because the turrets will not shoot anything that's on the ground. It's just too far away. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I thank you for your patience because it was quite a long video. And now I will somehow find the correct camera angle for a wave, and I will see you for the Twilight Zone. Catch you then.